Hi guys, Claudia Boleyn here, and today we're doing, we're actually going to do lessons 12 and 13 of the STEPS programme, and the reason for this is that this version of me you're seeing right now is actually, I've just done number 16, so I've just done a big exam and a big final piece for my third year, so I missed last week's one, and then also this is a different camera to my other camera, which also died around the same time, which is lovely. So yeah, you're going to get the same videos as you would have usually. Don't worry, it's all the same content. I recorded little videos on my phone so I can like refresh slightly, and the next video you're going to see after this one, which should be lesson number 14, I actually recorded a while ago now. So yeah, if there's any explanation on that video for where that is in the timeline, now you know. Okay, so we're going to start with lesson 12, which is quite a short one really. It's just building on the last session, so that's why I kind of put them into two. So number 12, which is week 12, is managing problems part 2. You know you're using the skill of managing problems when you recognise there is a problem, you recognise the long-term consequences of both helpful and unhelpful behaviours, you become more flexible, you recognise there is more than one way to respond to events, you practice new and more helpful problem-solving skills in all areas of life, you juggle no more than one ball at a time, it's much easier that way. You replace old, self-destructive coping habits with healthier, more fulfilling ones. You make your own decisions and assume responsibility for any mistakes. You refuse to be consumed with shame and guilt about them. You do the best you can and do at any given moment, and accept that that is 100% good enough. You do something different if you want something different to happen. So I wanted to talk about some of these aims because yeah, there's a lot of them which feel very important for me personally and that really resonate. So recognising there is a problem I'm pretty good at now. Like I feel like the course has kind of made me be able to identify when something's kind of going to trigger me quite early on, so that's really good. You recognise the long-term consequences of both helpful and unhelpful behaviours. So another one I wanted to talk about was you practice new and more helpful problem-solving skills in all areas of life. So I think part of my problem is that I always wanted to be polite and come across really well, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing at all. Like I was always brought up by my family to be quite well mannered and all that kind of thing, and yeah, as I've got older I can see the pros and cons, because I think that obviously it's good to be polite and to be kind and to be like well mannered with people, but I also think in some ways it's made me it allows people to walk over me, because I don't want people to think like, oh no, she's speaking back or something. And as I've said before, my personality is actually a really weird mixture, because my personality is someone who will snap back, because if I see like an injustice happening or I feel like I've been mistreated, it really sits with me and I feel it really emotionally. I was someone at school who, I did get a little bit bullied at school, like not hardcore bullying, like it only went on for like a year and then it was fine again, to be honest. It didn't happen again my whole school time after that time. But yeah, I'd experienced it myself, and so whenever there was someone who was being bullied, I was one of those people that would be like, oh, come and have lunch with me and my friends, because I knew what that was like, and it also got me into some arguments because I would stand up for them a lot, and it's not good. If you're the person who stands up for someone who's being bullied, then it can put you in a situation where you also become quite unpopular. But I think it's worth it, and I was having this conversation with people in the group on week 16 actually, so we'll get to there, but we were talking about how actually a lot of us have that issue. It's not an issue, I think it's a good thing in terms of like as a personality trait. I think that's such a good thing about having EID, is that because we are so emotionally aware, which in so many ways like comes across like it's a negative thing like for us, in some ways I think it makes us really empathetic, which is quite good, because I've noticed a lot of people in the group really care about each other and other people and injustices, and I spoke to some people who were saying, yeah, I can't stand corrupt authority figures, and I feel like that's almost like a trademark of EID at the moment, to be honest. Like everyone I've spoken to seems to have the same thing. It's authority figures that are abusing their power and their privilege. We're the sort of people who might call that out, maybe because we're so emotional on instinct, so we don't think to ourselves, okay, there's going to be repercussions if I call this out, it's going to reflect badly on me, maybe I should be quiet. So we don't really have that because we don't like think it through so much, which maybe we should. But it also means that we're the people who will maybe call stuff out or bring things up, so yeah, it can make us unpopular, which I've experienced so many times, and it's really frustrating. But ultimately I think that it's good that we have that trait, because it means that we do the right thing, or we do what we think is the right thing, and we try our best. But yeah, part of that problem solving that I'm learning and that I'm doing is communicating with people and standing my ground, because I especially feel like this intersects with the fact that I'm mentally ill, bisexual, mixed race, feminist. So if I often have these conversations with people like online or that kind of thing, then automatically sometimes I can get treated like in a really like shitty way, to be honest, and it's not right. And yeah, I feel like sometimes the response is to just be like to let it happen, because you don't want any further stuff to happen. But I don't think that's me. And like there have been times when I've like, the best thing for me is to try and be calm about it, which I think I have been doing over the past year, but also call stuff out. So there have been like a number of experiences which like I will get around to talking to on this channel, because like there's been so much stuff going on that is unfair, which does need to be called out, to be honest. But yeah, it's all very tied into this therapy work, in this sense of my self-esteem and building those boundaries and knowing the respect that I'm owed, and not allowing my mental illness to be used against me or any of my other identities, you know? And this group is really just making me stronger in terms of that, because it's kind of combining that feeling of being the sort of person who wants to speak out with also giving me the skills to do that calmly and to kind of keep my head at the same time and not hurt myself. Because in the past I would get so upset after a confrontation or after being mistreated, that I would start to internalise it and think, okay, I'm being mistreated, I must be worthless, and then I'd hurt myself. But that's not happening so much now. Now I'm thinking, I'm being mistreated, wait a minute, that person should not be mistreating me, and you know what, I'm going to tell them that, and I'm going to tell other people that if I have to. So yeah, this sense of empowerment is something that has been incredibly valuable in this group, and having so many other people with similar experiences to that is just validating, because the ableism is unreal. If you have, I mean, I'm sure it's the same with other mental illnesses and disorders, but yeah, if you have something like this, then it can be used against you, and it's really not fair, and that's something that needs to change, because we just can't be discounted because we struggle and have issues. And worse than that, people will use the issues as a way to discount us for other things. So basically they'll be displeased with us for other reasons, and I'm sure you can relate to this because we were talking about this in our group, like quite a group of us actually. But people will be annoyed with you for other reasons, and then the first thing they'll pull out, which is completely nothing to do with anything, is, oh well, your mental illness is an excuse, let's use that. And it's like, no, you're going to treat me like another human being, you're not going to use my mental illness, thank you very much, that's ableist. So yeah, I feel very passionately about that, and it's so good to have other people in the group to share with. And that's something that being in that group setting is amazing, because sometimes when you're on your own you think you're going mad, especially if you're dealing with someone who's quite like, if the people around you or people who are doing that to you are quite manipulative about it and quite clever with it, you kind of start to think, wait, am I going mad here? And it's nice to talk to other people and realise, and of course the people in charge of the group as well who don't have BPD, and realise that no, we're not always the ones in the wrong there. And yeah, obviously there are some things we need to be accountable for, like yeah, sometimes we get like our mood swings, and if we ever take that out on other people then we need to be accountable for that, of course. But a lot of us are also mistreated a lot, and ableism is used against us to like basically get rid of our opinions and basically discount us as people, and losing opportunities, work, all that kind of thing. It's just an easy way to get rid. And yeah, this has gone off on a bit of a tangent, but I need to do some more videos and stuff about ableism, because it's still impacting people so much, and we're in a time when the same people who will be ableist and use these ableist things will be out there saying things like, you got to talk about mental health, and like being mental health advocates. And it's kind of like, no, you have to back up your words with your actions. How do you actually treat the mentally ill people around you, and how are you dealing with situations? And that has to be called out, because you can't just be talking the talk, you know, you have to be walking the walk. And I think that with any kind of, if you become an ally to any community, or you want to be a help to any community, then you have to walk the walk. You can't just talk the talk. And there's a lot of people who talk that talk, and they do not walk that walk behind the scenes. You juggle no more than one ball at a time. It's much easier that way. So yeah, that's something that I'm learning, because I have like so many like stresses and things, because I have generalised anxiety disorder, like things that probably wouldn't stress other people out, stress me out a lot. So yeah, I always have a lot of stress going on in my head, and it's always like I kind of know the next thing that's coming, and it kind of puts you in a state of not dealing with your problems, because you're thinking about everything all as one. So something that's helpful has been being able to think of them individually. So I write myself lots of lists now, actually. So even if it's like a bad day, I'll write a list of basic things that need to be done in the day, and I will just cross them off. And even if I only get a couple of them done, I focus on one task at a time. So for example, today, when I'm actually having quite a good day, I have on my list, I'm going to make my video for week 12 and week 13. And I got up, and I got dressed, and I put my makeup on, and I got my sheets out, and I watched my notes, and now I'm making this. So that is, I broke that down into stages, and then altogether, I have got here. So I've achieved something. Also with my exam, I had an exam like, I think it was 2 weeks ago now. Yeah, it was. And it went quite well, by the way. Well, I don't know. I'll get my results in July, so I'll let you know how I did. But yeah, I feel like I became quite obsessive over revision, but I think that was fair enough in the couple of weeks leading up to it. But I made sure that once that was done, I gave myself time out. So I just allowed myself to relax and just kind of like chill down a little bit. And then as soon as that was finished, I went on to thinking about the next thing that I need to do. So yeah, I'm just taking it in stages, even if it's like weekly, like a weekly goal or something like that. So yeah, I've got quite a few things coming up to look forward to, which is very important with something like this, because you need to know that there's things coming. Like even if it's just like as small as like a TV show you want to watch or something like that, it is important. And I have a calendar on my wall. It's actually a pre-Raphaelite calendar with all different pre-Raphaelite paintings on it. And so I look at it every day and I can see like the nice things that I have coming up, even if they're not like huge things. For example, I'm seeing Dan very soon, and for me like that's a really nice thing, just to have Dan back. And there's other things going on, and you know, it's nice to think of those things. Like I had like when I saw Dad on Father's Day, I had that on my calendar, like all going out with Dad, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's nice. You replace old self-destructive coping habits with healthier, more fulfilling ones. So I have got into exercise recently, and I'll talk about this in a later video actually, because we do talk about exercise later on. But a lot of the time I do get these kind of like self-harm urges, and I haven't done that for a while in terms of like actual cutting. So when I have that huge burst of energy, I like try and exercise. So I have to be careful with that though, because sometimes I over-exercise, but it's still me trying to put something in place instead. So I'm trying to kind of rewire my brain, so the first instinct is not to self-harm like in a way that's going to be lasting. So I think in some ways that's working, but I still need to work on that. You make your own decisions and assume responsibility for any mistakes. You refuse to be consumed with shame or guilt about them. You do the best you can do at any given moment and accept that that is 100% good enough. See, this one is something I believe in anyway, and I believe in it for pretty much all people, because I am someone who does believe in forgiveness a lot, because I always torture myself over my mistakes and things I've done wrong and my guilt, and I make sure that I try and alter myself so that if I've made a mistake in my life, I don't remake that mistake. If I've upset someone, I wouldn't do that again. So I'm always trying to kind of better myself in that way. And I feel like I'm quite a forgiving person in terms of, for most things anyway, but I feel like if somebody is sorry for something, and they have apologised for it, and they are sincere, then I'm the sort of person who's quite inclined to forgive them, as long as they show effort of changing and growing, and it's not just like a word that's thrown out there. I mean, I tend to think about it as, you know, I feel like guilt is a handy tool in terms of letting you know if you've broken your moral code and you need to apologise to someone, but it's not a healthy thing to constantly carry, you know. You need to use it as a catalyst. In order to really change and show that you're sorry for something, you need to take that guilt and turn it into something positive and give something good out into the world, because I feel like that shows that you're doing something, because it's no good really, is it, to just feel shame and guilt over something you do wrong. You need to actually take the steps to A, change, and to B, like do better and put good out into the world. And yeah, I do believe that. So it's no good to just sit and wallow in guilt, because it doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't make you a better person. It just makes you more upset, and then you become more sort of self-absorbed about it. And the last one is, you do something different if you want something different to happen. So that's something I'm starting to learn. So I'm being more assertive, as I keep saying, but it's like probably my biggest thing for me that I'm taking from the course. Well, I'm taking a lot, but it's one of the biggest things. So I'm carrying that forward. Like I've got some stuff that I need to kind of sort out over the next couple of weeks as well, and I'm making sure to be assertive, like polite, but stand my ground and be assertive, you know? If you want things to be different, you need to do things differently. So in my case, if I want people to show me respect, you know, and not be walked over by people, and not allow people to think that because of my mental illness or other things that they can, I need to show them that they can't. Now I can't change their behaviour, but I can change my own response, and it makes me feel better and have that self-respect if I'm someone who stands up against that and will say, I am unhappy with this. I can't change what they do, but I can stand up for myself and have boundaries. And yeah, that's what I'm doing differently. I'm not being afraid to speak up. I've always been someone who's pretty good at speaking up for other people. When it comes to myself, I find it more difficult, but I'm starting to do that now. So that's pretty much all there is in lesson 12, because it really is just going over what we did last week. So sometimes we have lessons like that where we'll learn something one week and then the next week we'll kind of talk about our experiences and how we've kind of incorporated that into our lives. So yeah, we're going to move now on to lesson 13. So lesson 13 is in behaviour management. So it says here that behaviour management is all about a balancing act. So even without an emotional illness, balance is necessary for managing your life. If one area of your life is unbalanced or out of control, the other areas of life are affected, and BPD/EID becomes much more difficult to manage. So it says here that managing the illness takes a tremendous amount of energy. And if you have to use that energy trying to control other areas of your life, there may not be enough energy left to deal with the illness. I think some people don't appreciate how draining mental illness is, and I know it's different for all different mental illnesses, but with EID, personality disorder, it's draining emotionally because you're going through those highs and lows and you're feeling things so much. And it can be like physically draining, it takes up so much. I feel like some people don't necessarily realise, and I know that in my videos I come across as quite kind of I don't know if I'd say bubbly, but quite, you know, with it and in the zone. But, you know, this is me when I'm feeling well enough to record. And as you know, sometimes my channel goes through times where I don't post very much because I'm having a really, like, low period and I just don't have the energy. So something that's been hard for me is studying my degree from home and having the illness at the same time. Because obviously, like, so much of the energy that other people just don't appreciate, that they just have in them, like, to spare, like half of it already goes for us in day-to-day life, like the simple things, so we have less left over. And I've heard it referred to as spoons, you know, having with mental illness, you know, having the energy to do things, and some people describe it as not having the spoons, like not having a literal enough amount of energy, which I quite like. But yeah, people just underestimate that. So I really hate when people with mental illnesses are called lazy, because it's so unfair, because you're judging us like we don't have all that stuff that we do. You know, it's like, oh, it's just so unfair, because there's like the energy it takes to just go through all the normal things in life that other people take for granted, you know? It's so difficult. And then for people to say, oh, you know, you're lazy, you're this, you're that, and it's kind of like, look, I'm just trying to get through. We're just trying to kind of survive and be in a good place and do the normal daily things, and it's so hard. So it's important to maintain a pattern of regular sleeping, eating, exercising, leisure and physical health behaviours. So this is part of the balancing act that is critical for managing EID. So individuals with EID may feel so out of control with the illness that they go to extremes by trying to over-control specific areas of their life. And this can take place in relationships, eating, sleeping, etc. So this is why, for example, you often see people with EID or BPD also having an eating disorder at some point, or things like that, or perhaps coinciding with anxiety or with OCD, because it is all about that kind of obsessive need for control. And when I say that, I don't mean like scary control, like controlling people, as in you feel so out of control, like the sheet says, in your own head and in your own life, that you're just trying to get some control over your own life. And it doesn't help that a lot of people with this diagnosis have had situations in their life where things have happened which are completely beyond their control, and they felt helpless. So add that to not being able to control then the emotions in your head, or perceiving that you're not able to control them, because obviously we're learning to kind of not be able to control them, but to kind of bring them down and deal with them a little bit more. But yeah, that's such a fear, being out of control. And I struggled with emetophobia. I used to make quite a few videos about it, which is a real phobia of sickness, which I do still have, but I'm kind of working on. This group's helping me with. And I know that through therapy and through doing this, that is a part of this illness. It's part of the BPD, because it's a part of the fear of losing control, of not being in control of my body, because I feel like when I'm ill, I'm not in control of my body. So that is something that really scares me, and it's why in the past I've had struggles with over exercising or under eating, because it's all about that desperate sense of control, like maybe I'll be worth something if I do this or do that, or I don't do this or I don't do that. And of course you think you're gaining control over your life by doing that, but you're actually just getting way out of control and making things so much worse. It also says here, at other times, persons with EID may pour all their energy into managing the illness, and other areas of life become out of control. So the following skills are important for managing emotional intensity and for keeping life in balance. So setting goals, eating and nutrition, sleep, exercise, leisure, physical health, abuse avoidance, and relationships. So like a really brief overview of those categories. So setting goals helps you determine what you want out of life and how to get there. So it helps to give you a focus and it guides your behaviour, and it's like a goal you can work towards. Eating and nutrition, that one's quite obvious. If you're physically unhealthy, if you're not eating the right foods, if you're not eating enough, or you're eating too much, or you're eating too much unhealthy foods, or you're obsessing and only eating healthy foods, maybe like cutting out carbs or something, none of those things are good for your body, and therefore they're not good for your mental health. So we need to be eating like a balanced diet, and that doesn't necessarily mean suddenly being like, oh, I'm only eating healthy food, because people mistake it for that and they think, okay, I'm going to be healthy now, I'm just going to eat healthy food. You just need to have a balance, so just try incorporating some more healthy things into your diet at the moment and just do it gradually. Okay, so sleeping, this one's pretty obvious as well. Like if you sleep badly, your mental health will be worse the next day, and obviously if you have like a mental illness, then sometimes you will find it hard to sleep, so it's a bit of a vicious cycle. But having an irregular sleep schedule is no good, because you need to kind of train your body, or well, I'm trying to train my body to kind of go to sleep at the same time and wake up at the same time roughly, and it's still not 100% working, but I'm trying really hard. Okay, so exercise, obviously it's known to kind of lessen symptoms of depression because it creates endorphins, doesn't it? I'm not a scientist, but I'm sure it does. So obviously it like releases tension, and when I feel like really het up, exercising really helps me, but again it's a balance, because you don't want to over exercise, because then you'll just hurt your body and you'll get obsessed with it, like I have done in the past, because I just get obsessed with everything. Okay, your physical health means in terms of if there's something wrong, then go to your doctor and get that seen to. Now I know this in this booklet they make out like that's really easy, but obviously it's not, because we're in a situation where our NHS is horribly underfunded and there's huge waiting times, and which is no fault of the people who work there themselves, it is the government. Yes it is, but it is obviously important, even if there are waiting lists unfortunately, to if there's a problem then get it checked out. Like don't sit with it. If you've had something for a long time, then get it checked out by a doctor, because you deserve that. And sometimes people might use it as a form of self-harm in a way, you know, to kind of keep that thing about them instead of getting it fixed when you could get it fixed. And also it says like not reacting to every ache and pain as if you're seriously ill. And, well, I suppose it's basically being a hypochondriac, which, well, I always used to get called a hypochondriac when I was younger, but then it turned out that I did have mental illness and that was causing my symptoms, because I used to obviously get quite sick at school. I used to get headaches, like migraine headaches, so at one point my vision went really blurry, which was quite scary. And it was like, oh, because the doctors couldn't find anything physically wrong, so it was like, oh, she's just being dramatic, she's just a hypochondriac. And obviously as I got older, it all became clear that those were symptoms that were coming about because of the mental illness. So a lot of us do get like the physical sensations with the mental illness, but in some ways it can be helpful to know your body and know what is a symptom of that, because now if I get like a stress headache, or if I feel ill because I'm nervous, I don't freak out and think, oh my god, I've got some sort of horrible bug, or, you know, oh no, I've got something wrong with my brain. I just think to myself, okay, well, I know I've been extra stressed recently, so this is probably a stress headache, or this is probably like a nervous anxiety stomach, so that helps. So leisure time is important, and so the filters of defectiveness, subjugation, or self-sacrifice make us think that maybe we don't deserve leisure time, or we cut it down, you know? So, and some of us have too much leisure time. So I don't know like how it is for you, but with me, I kind of, I waste a lot of my leisure time, I think. But it is really important to follow your interests and take that time for yourself, and you don't have to have a lot of money to do that. Like, even if it's just like taking a time out to do a bit of reading or a bit of writing, or watch something on the TV that you like, or just like sitting in the garden if you have one, or just doing something that will relax you. Like, you need to schedule that time. So another one is abusive behaviours, which is basically self-harm. So obviously we need to know our triggers, which we're learning. And the abusive behaviours are, we're very abusive to ourselves. And I think that people with BPD there's such rubbish, you know, about people with BPD, and oh, like they're awful people. And then when you actually look at it and you look at like the research and everything, it's not true at all. I mean, I think that a big trademark of BPD is the self-harm. You know, there's a lot of self-hurting, you know, and pain that's turned inwards with BPD, so I would love to get rid of that misconception. And then lastly is relationships, which is something I so need to work on, because I'm so bad with it. Like, it says here that humans are social beings, and we either, if you have EID, you tend to either completely avoid relationships, or you quickly become too attached or too involved. And oh my god, that's exactly me. And like, for example, let's talk about romantic relationships. I'm on Tinder, you know, I chat to some people, but rarely do I open up enough and trust someone enough to actually go on a date, you know. That's very rare for me. So, and it is because I think it's like a fear of like opening up, which is, and it's almost like, well, if I don't get involved then I won't get hurt and I won't be let down and I won't be abandoned, because those are my fears, but I need to kind of push through. So something I want to do this summer is to socialise more. And also I feel like I'm terrible with my friends because I often don't contact my friends for long periods of time, and it's because I myself have the filter of defectiveness and I feel like I'm just going to like weigh them down, that kind of thing, and I don't want to burden them. And then actually what I'm doing is being a bad friend because I need to get in contact, and it's been ages, and I have to admit I'm still doing that to a couple of my friends right now. So I need to, after this video I'm going to text some people because I'm so bad for that, and I'm just grateful that I have friends who kind of get it. They shouldn't have to put up with that though, to be completely honest. You know, I need to sort that out. I need to make sure that I am maintaining relationships. It's no good to just like show it when I'm with that person and like tell them that I care about them. You know, I need to make sure that I am checking in. So that's something that I need to work on. So basically we had a questionnaire to identify which of those categories were the most relevant to our lives, and we just basically scored them. And my top ones actually ended up being exercise and eating. Because again, I've used both of those as forms of self-harm before and I get too obsessed with stuff. But yeah, to be honest, I relate to all of them. And I think it would change on the given day I did the questionnaire. So yeah, next you will see week 14, which was filmed a while ago for me, directly after the session. So I love you loads. I will see you very soon. And I hope this is going well for you and that it's helping. And we haven't got too long left until it's over, really. A bit scary, but anyway, okay, I love you loads. I'll see you really soon. Okay, bye.